Okay, so today we're going to solve compound inequalities. And compound inequalities are a lot like compound words. Compound words are when you combine two separate words into one word. Compound inequalities are the same thing. We're going to combine two inequalities in the, we're going to solve two inequalities at once. And we're just combining two inequalities into one. So to solve these, the first couple are between inequalities. And our goal now in these is to get the variable by itself in the middle. So in order to get the variable by itself here in the middle, we are going to have to add 4. But now instead of just adding the 4 in 2 places, we have to add it in 3 places. So then, when we solve this, on the left side we have 1, negative 3 plus 4. In the middle we have just m, and on the right side we're left with 3. So what this basically says is m is between 1 and 3. M is greater than or equal to 1, and at the same time less than 3. So to graph this, this is the inequality solution. And then when we graph this, we want to make sure we have 1 and 3. And again, just like last week, if we have less than or equal to, we have a closed circle at 1, just less than at 3, so an open circle at 3, and then m is between those two, so we're going to be shading in between. And then with the interval form of the solution, interval notation, again, like we talked about on Wednesday, we go left end of the graph to the right end of the graph. So at the left end of the blue graph is 1, at the right end is 3. Now 1 is included because it is a closed circle, so we're going to put a bracket at 1. 3 is not included, so we're going to have a parenthesis around the 3. So that is the interval form of that solution. So once again, there are 3 forms for this solution: the inequality, the graph, and the interval form. All right, now doing the same thing to letter B. Again, we're going to add 4 to both sides. All 3 sides, I should say. And then when we do that, we end up with 2 on the far left, 3y in the middle, and 18 on the right. Y is not quite by itself yet, so we're going to have to divide by 3. And we're going to divide by 3 in all 3 places. Now, again, since we are dividing by a positive number, we don't have to worry about flipping these inequalities. So we are left with y in the middle, left side 2/3, right side 6. So that is the inequality form of the solution. The graph, 2/3 is between 0 and 1, so I'm going to put 0 and 1 here, and then 6 will be down here. And y is between those two. Now at 2/3, which is a little bit closer to 1, we're going to have an open circle because it's just less than. And at 6, we're also going to have an open circle, and we are shaded in between. Greater than 2/3, which is this way, less than 6, which is this way. And then the interval form, we have an open circle. At the left end of the graph is at 2/3. Right end of the graph is at 6. 2/3 is not included, so we have a parenthesis around the 2/3. Open circle at 6 means it's not included, so we also have a parenthesis around the 6. Inequality form, graph form, interval form for your 3 different types of solutions. Now in C, we're going to get rid of this fraction first. We're going to multiply everything by 4. So the left side by 4, 84 times 4 would be 320 and 16, so 336. 4 times 86 would be 320 plus 24, which is 344. And then I'm going to add these like terms together. 86 and 85 would be 171, and 81, or in plus 80, 171 plus 80 would be 251 plus x. And then, to get the x by itself in the middle, we're going to subtract 251 from all three places. And 336 minus 251 is 85. We have x left in the middle. And then 344 divided by, or subtract minus 251 is 93. So x is between 85 and 93. That is the inequality form of the solution. The graph, our critical points are 85 and 93. Since this is less than or equal to, we're going to have a closed circle at 85. Also a closed circle at 93 and shaded in between. So then, the interval form, left end of the graph is 85. Right end of the graph is 93. Since they are both included, we're going to have brackets around each one. Again, the three solutions: inequality, graph, and interval. Now D is a little bit different. D is no longer one where we have our variable in between two values, but instead on the outside, and that's where the word or comes from. So our graph is going to look a little bit different, and so is our interval for this. So we're going to solve each inequality individually. So in this case, first thing we're going to do is subtract 2. So we have 3t is less than negative 9. And then we're going to divide both sides by 3. And again, since we're dividing by a positive number, we do not flip the inequality. So t is less than negative 3. Now solving the second piece, with that second piece, first thing we do is subtract 5. And then we have negative 4t is less than negative 4. And then to get the t by itself, we would divide by negative 4. Now in this case, we are dividing by a negative number, both sides. Since we're dividing by a negative number, we need to flip our inequality. So t is greater than 1. And we just bring down the or. So this is the inequality version of this solution. Now in order for numbers to be involved in the solution, they only have to satisfy one of those. So on our graph, we want to graph all those numbers that are less than negative 3 or plus all those that are greater than 1. So let's focus on the t is less than negative 3 first. Since we have just less than, we have an open circle, and we're going to shade to the left. That's where those numbers are less than negative 3. And then for 1, once again, we're going to have an open circle at 1, and we're going to shade in the direction of those numbers that are greater than 1, which is to the right. So then, since this graph has 2 pieces, the 3 before had just 1 piece in each of those graphs, but in this one, since this one has 2 pieces, our interval is going to come in 2 pieces. Notice with our interval, we start at the left end. Well, the left end, it keeps going and going and going, so it's negative infinity. And then it stops at 3. And then since, oh, sorry, it stops at -3. And since there's an open circle there, it is not included, so we put a parenthesis around the 3. Then it takes a little break, and then it picks up again at 1, and then continues on to the right to infinity. And since 1 is not included, we put a parenthesis around the 1. Now, whenever you have two pieces to the interval form like this, we put the same symbol between them each time. And we put a little U in there. It stands for union. So we take both pieces as part of our solutions. That's what the union means. So we have the inequality form of the solution, the graph, and the interval form of the solution. Now the next example is very much the same. Again, we solve each piece for y, so we're going to subtract 7 first. So we have negative 2y is less than -6. And then we divide by -2. Now, since we're dividing both sides by -2, we have to be careful to make sure we flip the inequality. So y is greater than 3. And then we'll solve the other piece. Subtract 3 first. So 4y, going to put that in blue. 4y is less than or equal to -8. And then when we divide this by +4, since we're dividing both sides by a positive number, we do not flip the inequality, so it stays less than or equal to, and we end up with -2. That's the inequality version of the solution. We're going to put -2 and 3 on our number line, and we're going to graph these. So we're going to graph each piece. So y is greater than 3, first of all. We're going to have an open circle at 3, and then we're going to shade in the direction of those numbers that are greater than 3. So then we are shaded to the right, and then less than or equal to -2, so we're going to have a closed circle at -2. We're going to shade in the direction of those numbers less than -2, which is to the left. So then our integrals are going to look a lot like they did in the last example. Left end is -infinity, and then it goes to -2 and stops. Now, since -2 is included with that closed circle, we're going to put a bracket there. And then it picks up again at 3, but now 3 is not included. And then all the way to the right is infinity. So that interval comes in two pieces. And whenever you have two pieces to the interval, you put the little union symbol in between. And finally, with f, to get the r by itself in the middle, we're going to add 5 everywhere. So we have 1 is less than or equal to r, which is less than 4. So now once again, this is one where we have betweenness, we like to say, 1 and 4. So at 1, we will have a closed circle, and at 4 an open circle, and we're going to shade in between. So that's the inequality form of the solution. That's the graph form of the solution. And the interval form of the solution, then, left end of the graph is at 1, right end is 4. And there's only one piece to the graph, so we only have one interval. 1 is included, so we put a bracket around the 1. 4 is not included, so we only put a parenthesis around there. Once again, inequality, graph, and the interval.